stress. Now that's a funny thing, isn't it? It sneaks up on people, wraps around their throats, tightens its grip, and suddenly, snap. They're spiraling, overthinking, overanalyzing, running in circles like a dog chasing its own tail. They want control. They need control. But here's the punchline. They never really had it to begin with. Control. We all want it, don't we? We think if we could just control everything, our job, our relationships, our health, our future, if we could hold the reins of life with both hands and tighten our grip, then maybe, just maybe, we could stop the chaos. But here's the thing. Chaos is already there. It's always been there. And trying to control it, well, that's like trying to cage a storm in a jar. Doesn't matter how tight you screw the lid on, the wind's still gonna howl, the thunder's still gonna crack, and you're standing there holding the jar, thinking you've got it all figured out. But you're not controlling the storm. The storm is controlling you. People like to think they're in charge. It's comforting. The idea that if they just work hard enough, if they just push through the mess, if they just keep grinding, they'll eventually make it. Maybe it's the promotion, maybe it's the perfect relationship, maybe it's that one thing they think will make them feel whole. But all that pushing, all that grinding, it's an illusion. Control is an illusion. It's a comfort we cling to because we're afraid of what would happen if we let go. If we just accepted that we can't always be the one in charge. It's so much easier to lie to ourselves, to pretend that everything is within our grasp, that if we just try harder, it will all work out. But here's where it gets tricky, because the more you try to control things, the more you tighten your grip, the more everything around you starts to slip. It's like trying to squeeze water in your hands. It doesn't stay. You keep thinking, if I just hold on a little longer, it'll all make sense. But the harder you squeeze, the more it escapes, the more you lose, and before you know it, and that's when the panic sets in, when you realize you've been fighting a losing battle. When you realize that maybe, just maybe, you've been running in circles, fighting battles that were never yours to fight in the first place. And that's when it hits you, doesn't it? That there's no one-size-fits-all solution to everything. That not everything can be solved by your willpower or your determination. That there are things that just don't bend to your will, things that are bigger than you. But the funny thing is, you're still holding on, still fighting, still trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. Still trying to force the puzzle pieces together, even when they're clearly the wrong ones. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in control, to want to make things happen for yourself. But the truth is, control is not the answer. And deep down you already know that, don't you? You know that no matter how hard you try to keep everything in line, life is going to do what life does. It's going to throw curveballs. And you can either stand there trying to catch every single one and get knocked down in the process, or you can step back, breathe, and understand that maybe it's not about catching the curveballs at all. Maybe it's about learning to move with the pitch, learning to dance with the chaos instead of resisting it. Because here's the thing that most people won't tell you. There's freedom in surrender. There's peace in letting go. I know, it sounds absurd, doesn't it? Letting go of control? It's terrifying. Because what if everything falls apart? What if you lose everything? What if you're left with nothing? The fear is loud, it's relentless. But what if, just what if? Letting go means you open yourself to something bigger than you ever imagined. What if you're so focused on controlling every tiny detail that you miss the bigger picture? The one where life, with all its mess and chaos, somehow just works out? Not because you made it work, but because you let it happen. The illusion of control is the trap. It's the one that gets you stuck in your head, spinning in circles, convinced that if you just make one more move, just try one more thing, just push a little harder, it'll all fall into place. But no matter how much you push, no matter how many plans you make, life isn't a straight line. It's a maze. And the more you try to force your way through it, the more lost you get. So yeah, control, it's a joke. We like to believe we have it, but we don't. And maybe the real trick isn't in forcing things into place, but in stepping back and saying, I'm done. I'm done trying to make it all work, because clearly it's not me that's supposed to make it work. I'm just along for the ride. You know what the most fascinating thing about control is? It's that we think we've got it, don't we? We walk around, heads high, believing that if we just adjust this, shift that, maybe add a little more to the mix, bam, we've got it all figured out. We've got this thing locked down like some sort of mad scientist, concocting the perfect formula for success. We start thinking we can change the course of events with a little more effort, a little more muscle, a little more, what's the word? Willpower. But it's all a trap, a little game, a joke we tell ourselves over and over, convincing us that we're in charge, that we can manipulate our surroundings with sheer determination. And let me tell you something, friend. Life does not care about your plan. It doesn't care about your grand designs or your brilliant ideas. Life doesn't give a damn about how hard you've worked, how much you've sacrificed, or how many sleepless nights you've spent chasing after that thing you think is going to make everything better. You think you're in control, but you're just in denial. Because here's the kicker. You can't control everything. You can't control the timing, the outcomes, the people around you. You can't even control the way your own heart beats, let alone the course of your life. But still you try. Still you push and pull and twist and turn, doing everything you can to force things into the mold you've decided they should fit. And when they don't, when things fall apart, when things go sideways, you get angry, you get frustrated, and you start to question everything you've worked for. But here's what's really going on. All that control you're holding on to, it's a shield. It's a defense mechanism. Because if you let go of the illusion of control, if you allow yourself to see the truth that life isn't something you can just manipulate into shape, well, that's terrifying, isn't it? The idea of letting go, of releasing your grip, of stepping back and admitting that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this mess than you could ever comprehend, that's scary. And so you keep holding on, even when your hands are bleeding from the strain. You keep fighting, even when it's clear the battle's already lost. You keep pushing, even when the universe is clearly telling you to stop. But what if you stopped fighting? What if you just let go? No more white-knuckling your way through every moment. No more trying to bend life to your will. Imagine that for a second. Imagine just being. Not trying to make sense of everything. Not trying to control the outcome. Not trying to predict the next move. Because the more you try to control, the more you lose control. You're so busy fighting against the current, so obsessed with swimming upstream, that you forget to look at the river to understand that it's flowing, whether you want it to or not. The more you try to force things, the more you miss out on what's happening right in front of you. Control isn't the answer, my friend. And you already know this deep down. You've felt it. You've felt that ache, that gnawing in your gut, that sense of being stuck, even when you're doing everything you can to move forward. And why? Because you're fighting the wrong battle. You're fighting the current instead of learning to swim with it. You're pushing against the flow instead of realizing that maybe, just maybe, the best way to get to where you need to go is to let go and let things unfold as they will. It's not easy though. Letting go is hard. It's hard because we've been taught from a young age that we have to control everything, that we have to manage our lives with precision, that success only comes through effort, through sweat, through struggle. But that's a lie. That's a construct. That's the game they've sold us to keep us working, to keep us striving for something that's just out of reach. It's a game. And the joke is that the harder you play, the more you lose. The more you chase after the illusion of control, the more you lose touch with what really matters. But when you stop, when you just let go, you start to realize something powerful. You realize that you don't need to control everything to be okay. You don't need to figure everything out to find peace. You don't need to force things to happen to feel whole. Life will happen whether you're ready or not, whether you think you can handle it or not. And maybe that's the trick. Maybe the only way to truly handle it is to stop trying to control it in the first place. You don't need to force the pieces into the puzzle. You don't need to bend everything to your will. You just need to be in the moment, to live with it, to let it wash over you without trying to control every single drop. Stress. It's a curious thing, isn't it? You try to keep it under control, right? You think you've got it all figured out. One moment you're handling it, the next, it's all slipping through your fingers. You tell yourself, this is fine, I've got this, but you're just lying to yourself. Stress doesn't care about your plan. No, it sneaks up quietly at first. Then suddenly it's a storm inside your chest, thumping louder and louder. You start clutching your heart, gasping for air, but you're still pretending you can keep it all together. The thing is, you can't. It's never been about control. It's about letting go. Admitting you're not the one in charge of it all. You want to know something funny? People love to pretend they have control over their stress. They take it, they bottle it up in neat little boxes and tuck it away, convinced that if they just ignore it long enough, it'll go away. I'll deal with it later, they say, as if time is going to suddenly play nice and fix everything for them. But here's the twist. The more you try to suppress it, the more it grows. The more you push it down, the more it rises, like a balloon filled with pressure. Eventually, it's going to pop. You'll be standing there looking like you're fine until, bam, it all bursts. And you don't know what to do with it anymore. That's the real game, isn't it? Pushing things down until they overwhelm you. So what do? You try to manage it, control it. You think, if I just handle one thing, if I just take care of that one little thing, then I'll be fine. But it doesn't work like that. Stress doesn't work in a straight line. It doesn't play by the rules. No, it likes to sneak up from behind, catch you when you least expect it, then laugh in your face when you can't handle it. That's when you start looking for something to blame, anything to justify the chaos inside your head. You blame the people around you, the situation you're in, the universe. It doesn't matter. You'll find a reason. You'll find someone to point the finger at, but the truth, the truth is a little uglier. The truth is that you're holding on to it. You're clutching it so tightly, thinking if you just hold on a little longer, everything will be fine. But it's not, and it won't be, because stress isn't something you can keep under wraps forever. Now, I know, it's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind, isn't it? You feel like you're being pulled in every direction, each demand, each expectation tugging at you like strings. And the more you try to pull back, the more it drags you down. The moment you think you have it under control, the next moment you're sinking. That's what stress does. It thrives on that sense of chaos, on that feeling of being out of control. It wants you to believe that you have to keep fighting, keep scrambling, keep pushing. It wants you to think that this moment is the one that defines everything, that this is the end of the road if you don't pull yourself together. It's an illusion though, isn't it? It's a trap. Stress wants you to believe it has the power to break you. But the truth is much simpler. Stress only has power if you give it power. The minute you stop fighting it, the moment you stop clenching your fists and saying, I can do this alone, that's when the real freedom comes. You stop fighting the current and you realize maybe it's okay to let go for a minute. Maybe it's okay to take a step back, to breathe, to let the pressure ease off for a bit. Stress will always be there, lurking in the corners, waiting for you to pick it up again. But you don't have to. You don't have to keep carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you stop trying to carry everything on your own, the sooner you start to understand that not everything is in your hands. Well, that's when the chains start to loosen. And it's not about giving up, not about letting everything fall apart. It's about giving yourself permission to stop pretending. It's about accepting that the world doesn't need to be perfect, that you don't need to have it all figured out. Stress doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about how strong you think you are. It only cares about what you're willing to hold on to. So why not drop the weight? Why not take a step back and let it all go? Because you're not meant to carry it all. And the moment you realize that, the moment you understand that the stress doesn't define you, that's when the healing begins. Not because you can fix everything, but because you finally gave yourself permission to breathe. To stop pretending that it's all under control when you know it isn't. To stop fighting a battle that wasn't yours to fight in the first place. And that, my friend, is the real freedom. You know, it's funny how we all think we're in control of our lives, don't we? We think if we work hard enough, if we play the game right, we'll get what we want. But let me tell you something, life doesn't give a damn about your little plans. It doesn't care about how carefully you try to fit everything into neat little boxes. You think you've got a handle on it, but it's all an illusion. You want to hear a joke? The punchline is you, desperately clinging to your fragile sense of control, thinking you're the one pulling the strings. But it's really life that's pulling you, twisting and turning you, making you dance to its tune. And when you try to fight it, oh, it laughs. It laughs at how hard you struggle, at how desperately you fight against the chaos. Because life is chaos, and it thrives in your little efforts to keep it all together. Let's talk about stress for a second. Everyone talks about stress like it's something you can just manage. But how do you manage something that constantly shifts? How do you manage something that has a way of sneaking up on you when you least expect it, catching you off guard? You try to fight it, right? You throw yourself into your work, your routine, anything to drown it out, anything to prove to yourself that you're still in control. But all you're doing is digging yourself deeper into the hole. You're holding on to a ticking time bomb, thinking, if I just ignore it, maybe it'll go away. But trust me, it won't. It'll only get louder, more oppressive, and then one day, just when you think you've managed to quiet the storm, it explodes. You snap. Everything falls apart. The illusion of control shatters. That's the truth about stress. You can't keep it in a box. You can't contain it forever. But here's the thing, you don't have to keep fighting it. You don't have to keep pretending like you can control every little thing that happens to you. You see, stress feeds on that very idea. It feeds on your attempt to keep everything locked in place, to control the chaos. The harder you try, the more it digs its claws into you. The truth? You have to let go. You have to let go of the need to control everything. You have to stop believing that if you just keep pushing, just keep trying harder, it'll all work out. Because, spoiler alert, it won't. Not the way you think it will. And you know what? That's okay. You don't have to be the one who holds the pieces together. Here's where things get interesting. What if, just what if, you stopped fighting the chaos? What if, instead of constantly trying to hold everything in place, you let it happen? What if you stopped pretending to be a puppet master and let life pull you in the direction it's going to pull you, whether you like it or not? It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Letting go of control, but it's also the most freeing thing you could ever do. Because when you stop holding on to everything, when you stop stressing over every little detail, something amazing happens. You start to see things clearly. The panic fades. The urgency dies down. The need to control disappears. And suddenly you're free. You know what it feels like when you're constantly trying to control things? It feels like you're on a hamster wheel. You're running, but you're not getting anywhere. You're trapped in your own head, thinking that the more you do, the more you try to control, the more you'll accomplish. But in reality, you're stuck. You're going nowhere, and it's exhausting. That's what stress does to you. It convinces you that if you just keep going, if you just keep pushing, things will get better. But it's all a lie, because when you keep pushing without letting go, without trusting the process, you just end up burning yourself out. And for what? To keep up the illusion of control? To keep up the act that you're okay, that everything's under control? It's all a facade, and the joke's on you. So, here's the twist, my friend. Let it go. Let go of the illusion. Let go of the need to control every moment, every situation, every single thing that happens to you. You're not in control, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, it's liberating. When you stop holding onto the chaos, when you stop pretending that you have the answers, when you stop fighting life, it's like taking a deep breath after holding your lungs underwater for too long. Suddenly it feels like you can breathe again. Stress no longer has the power to control you. You realize that you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need to control every outcome. Because when you finally give up the illusion of control, when you accept that life is what it is, chaotic, unpredictable, messy, something incredible happens. You start to live. You start to experience life as it comes, without the burden of trying to force it into your vision. It's not about controlling the storm. It's about riding the waves and knowing that you'll be okay even when they hit you. It's about realizing that you don't need to hold on to everything, because when you let go, you free yourself. And isn't that what it's all about? It's funny, isn't it? The way people love to pretend they've got it all figured out. They walk around like they've mastered the art of life, like they know exactly what's coming next. They think they've got control over everything. Their jobs, their relationships, their dreams. They walk into a room and it's like they've got the world on a string. They act like the chaos of life isn't even a threat, like they've found some secret formula to avoid the storm. But here's the thing. Life isn't a formula. Life is chaos. A never-ending carnival ride, and no one, not a single soul, has control over it. You can walk around thinking you're in charge, but deep down you know, if you look hard enough, that you're just a player in a game you don't even understand. But here's the thing about that game. You're not alone in it. No, no, no. You're surrounded by it, engulfed by it. You've got the noise, the pressure, the demands of everyone around you telling you how to be, what to do, how to act. You're constantly being pulled in a million different directions, trying to keep up with everything and everyone, trying to stay ahead, trying to stay afloat. And in that madness, in that constant spinning, you forget something important. You forget that it's okay not to have all the answers. You forget that you don't have to fix everything. You forget that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Oh, but you don't believe me, do you? You want to keep going. You want to keep fighting against the current. You want to keep pushing, convinced that if you just do more, if you just try harder, if you just scream loud enough, everything will magically fall into place. But let me tell you something. The harder you fight, the harder it gets. The more you try to control things, the more you lose. You're not winning the game. You're losing. You're losing control of yourself, your mind, your peace. And what for? For an illusion. Because life isn't about controlling anything. It's about surrendering. But here's the trick. You have to let go. You have to stop pretending that you can hold on to it all. You have to stop trying to play God. You have to accept that there are things beyond your control. And that's okay. It's okay to feel lost sometimes. It's okay to feel like you don't have the answers. It's okay to say, I don't know. Because here's the thing, my friend. Once you let go of that pressure, once you stop trying to control every little thing, you begin to realize something. You begin to realize that the world doesn't need you to control it. The universe doesn't need you to fix it. What it needs is for you to show up, to just be present, to stop being so obsessed with the future and the outcome, and start focusing on the now. Start focusing on what's in front of you. It's crazy how much we try to make everything fit into a neat little box, isn't it? We want to control the outcomes of everything we do, the people we meet, the paths we take. But life's not about boxes, it's about mess, chaos, and unpredictability. And that's what makes it so damn beautiful. The problem comes when we start thinking we can control that mess. We start thinking we can make the chaos conform to our will. But life doesn't work like that. It never has. It's a free-flowing thing. It moves and shifts and changes, and all you can do is ride along with it. And trust me, that's a ride you'll never forget. You see, the beauty of it all is in the surrender. When you stop fighting and just let things happen, when you stop clutching onto every little detail of your life, you begin to see it for what it is. You begin to see how much lighter you feel. You stop worrying about all the what-ifs. You stop stressing over what you can't control. And that's when the real magic happens. You begin to experience life not as a series of obstacles to overcome, but as a series of moments to be had You begin to let go of all the things that weighed you down and simply exist. Oh, it's not easy, I know that. The temptation to take control, to try to manipulate the world around you is strong, but it's a lie. And once you realize that, once you stop fighting and start accepting, you'll see just how much peace there is in letting go. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't even have to know where you're going. All you have to do is trust that the road will take you where you need to go. Trust that even in the chaos, there's a rhythm. There's a reason behind the madness. And you don't need to understand it to enjoy the ride. The trick is, stop trying to hold onto the wheel. Let go. Just for once. Let go. You ever notice how the world is just a mess of noise? People running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Rush, they scream, they beg for answers, always looking for the next big thing, the next fix, the next win. But all that frantic movement, all that noise, it's just a distraction. It's like a circus, but instead of clowns, it's everyone pretending to have it all figured out, running in circles like they know the way. And you stand there in the middle of it all, trying to make sense of it. You think you need to do more. You think you need to fix everything. You think you're supposed to be the one with all the answers. But the joke's on you, because all that pressure, all that chaos, it's not real. It's a distraction. It's the world trying to trick you into believing you have to be perfect, that you have to have control, that you have to be in charge of it all. But here's the thing, no one tells you. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know every step, every move. No one does. We're all just stumbling through this mess of life, pretending like we know what's next, like we have some secret magical understanding of how it all works. And it's exhausting, isn't it? The constant pressure to keep up, to be the best, to make every move count. But what if I told you that you don't need to do any of that? What if I told you that the real secret is in doing nothing? What if I told you that sometimes the best thing you can do is just sit back, relax, and let the world unfold around you? Yeah, sounds crazy, right? But that's the point. It's only crazy because everyone else is so busy running in circles, trying to control things they can't. The moment you stop trying to control, stop trying to make sense of everything, that's when you start to win. Now, I'm not saying you just sit there and wait for things to magically happen. No, that's not what I mean. But there's a difference between trying to force everything to happen and allowing things to come to you. You see, everyone's too busy rushing around, forcing their way into things that weren't meant for them. They want it now, they want it all, and they want it their way. But life doesn't work like that. Life is a slow burn, not a fast food drive-through. It's about patience. It's about letting things unfold when the time is right. Not before, not after, but exactly when it's supposed to. And if you're too busy trying to make it all happen your way, you miss the timing. You miss the flow. You miss the moments that matter. You're so caught up in control that you forget the real magic is in the letting go. Think about it. What's really the point of trying to control everything, to hold on to things that aren't meant to stay, to clutch at straws, trying to keep something alive that's already dead? What does that do? It only exhausts you. It wears you out, body and mind. And for what? So you can say you did everything right? So you can say you were the one who made it happen? But guess what? That doesn't make you happy. That doesn't make you feel fulfilled. It just makes you tired. And there's nothing more tragic than a person who's tired of living because they've spent all their energy trying to force life to conform to their plan. The truth is, you can't make things happen by forcing them. You can't create peace out of chaos by screaming louder than the next person. You can't control everything around you and expect to be in control of yourself. And don't even get me started on how people love to give advice. Everyone's got something to say, like they know the secret to the universe. Just try harder, they say. Just push through it, they say. They say this, they say that, as if you're not already drowning in their expectations, as if you haven't already pushed yourself to the brink trying to meet everyone else's standards. But here's the punchline. That advice is a joke, because the truth is, pushing harder doesn't make things better, trying harder doesn't make things easier. It just creates more tension, more frustration, more disappointment when things don't go the way you want. What you need to understand is this. Peace comes from knowing you don't have to force everything. Peace comes from the acceptance that you can't control what's out of your hands. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's freedom. You see, when you finally realize that not everything has to be perfect, not everything has to go your way, not every step needs to be planned out, that's when you start to breathe. That's when you start to feel light. Because the weight you've been carrying, it's been a weight of your own making. The pressure you've been under, it's been a pressure you put on yourself. And once you let go, once you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, once you stop caring about what others expect of you, that's when you start to experience life for what it truly is. Beautiful. Chaotic, messy, but so worth it. And the best part, you don't need to control any of it. You just need to let it flow, let it be. And when you do, that's when you start to win.